C2 Wrestling Podcast. Don't know the number, don't care. We are back. Very, very exciting times. We are getting closer to WWE Backlash. Feels weird not calling it WrestleMania Backlash. That garbage ass name. They finally got rid of it as soon as I got used to it. That is just over a week away. Next week we'll most likely have predictions for that on our podcast. This week we have plenty of topics to get into. Some that might make us blood red mad. So before the blood pressure gets high, before I get so angry I want to rip my hair out, let's start on a happier note. How you doing today, Snowden?
How you doing? I am doing average day, waiting to pod, want to talk wrestling. That's what the life has been these last few weeks, especially off the back of WrestleMania. I just want to talk wrestling. I just want to watch wrestling. It's all that's on my mind throughout any given day at this point. And we're here to do that. Like you said, a couple topics to get to today. Some of them, I don't think they might make us blood red bad. I think they're going to make us blood red bad. But based on that, what do you want to get into first?
I want to get into what probably won't be in this title, but today is one of those days everybody has them. You wish a little bit you could time travel. I don't because I don't want to rush life, and there's so much to look forward to between now and then. But this morning, we purchased our 2 day tickets to SummerSlam. Still have to get our tickets to Raw and SmackDown once they announce those. Maybe get an Airbnb ski again.
Mm-hmm.
You start thinking about all the videos that we're gonna do, the live streams, the post shows, you name it. It's one of those days very similar to when we bought our WrestleMania 40 tickets. When you buy those tickets so far in advance, you have that like, I want it here tomorrow, but I don't. And man, that's how it just makes you like, I wish Raw was on tonight or SmackDown was on tonight, just to scratch that itch.
Yeah.
Because once you pay for those tickets, you're like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going with the boys. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. SummerSlam, MetLife. It's going to be an absolute blast. I think the card is slowly starting to even kind of shape up. I'm not going to say we can outright predict it, but I think there's some things that you can maybe expect going into this SummerSlam. So we might get a great event for first 2 night SummerSlam off the back of this WrestleMania as well, which, wasn't too great. You got to think they're going to kind of pull out all the stops for the next 2 night event being SummerSlam. So I think they're going to go for broke a little bit. And, we're going to be there live and in living color, as they would say. It's going to be a blast, man. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Not only are we going to be there, I've already mentioned this before, so I'm not really breaking news when I say this, but it'll be the debut of the C2 Championship for the predictions in a six-way. Going to the event, me, you, Alec the Honorary Oos, Kevin and Ryan from Fap Reactions, and Patty V that has been on this channel before. It's going to be so much fun, the six of us. Like, we had a blast WrestleMania weekend.
Mhm.
That was the appetizer. We even said at that time, like, SummerSlam's the real one. We're
Yep.
going. I officially got in the wireless mics and I got the flyer. I've got another package downstairs to pick up. The content that we're gonna do, pre-show, post-show, you name it. Like, I'm excited for that. But what I'm most excited for is it being scorching hot.
God, dude, you got to think it's going to be scorching hot, and I'm going to have to listen to Cardi B. Like, oh my God, man,
Cardi,
that's going to be a little bit rough, but we'll make do. I am going to bring all the water I can carry. I'm bringing a handful of fans. Listen, we might have to rearrange those seats and get the closest thing we can to the AC if there is anything near. But it's going to be brutal. Mania 33, we're dating ourselves a little bit now, but that was in Florida, April, early April, late March. It was hot. July, August in that stadium, MetLife. Oh, New Jersey. Oh, dude, it's going to be brutal. You want it to be a little cloudy almost, honestly, just for like the
yeah.
sake of being there. But you know how it is here. It's going to be so humid if that's the case. Yeah, listen, I we've talked about this before on the podcast, I'm sure. Mania 40, I was chilling. I was comfortable the entire time. We had a lucky spot back to our wall. Wind wasn't coming at us. We were good. Alec was there as well. He had different seats. He was not as great. I know they were a bit cold on their side. You were a little cold too, right?
I was I
Yeah.
was I was a little cold boy.
Yeah, well, you're a little
I
bitch,
could
so
have
it's
been
okay.
warmer.
But yeah. But I don't know. I'll take that like Philly Mania weather over what we're gonna get in July, no matter what it is, to be honest. It's gonna be
Yeah.
rough.
So here's the thing too. Obviously the show is going to be at night. It's probably going to be 7 to 10, 7 to 11 roughly.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the show starts, like the sun will be setting. So like sun beating down wise, it won't be as
That's
bad.
bad, yeah.
But the issue is, even when it's 10 o'clock, it's still going to be so humid that, okay, yeah, you might not have the headache from the sun beating down on you or whatever. You're still going to be sweating your balls off.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna be walking around kind of like
Yeah.
taking our arms
Yeah.
off, like all
Yeah.
sticky and shit,
I'm going to be walking like a
And
cartoon, like I'm trying to
yeah.
keep my legs as wide as possible.
And so 33 again. That was the first event that we all went to together, like big event like that. And you learn, you figure out easier ways and better ways to do things. Mania 40, we had a great experience, like made out like bandits. Everything went so smoothly. Mania 33, why in the world did we wait outside there for like 3 hours? Like, what were we doing standing out in that heat for 3 hours? We could have done other things.
Well, the gate time was wrong, as I've mentioned.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
we
true. The
got
gate
and
time was wrong.
the
Yeah.
gates opened like
It's,
an hour later than they were supposed to.
is it ever right?
Like literally, it's never fucking
Never
right.
right. It's
I'm pretty
never
sure on
right.
one of our banked podcasts I ranted, or maybe it was one of the ones that's already aired. I ranted about that. But
Yeah.
holy
Yeah.
shit, if you say 5 o'clock, fucking open at 5 o'clock. Good
Yeah, I
lord.
agree. Yeah. We know a little bit better. Again, we'll see what it's like when we get there. This time around, I'll sit in that car with the AC blasted until those doors open. How
And
many?
no pre-show too, which
No
helps.
pre-show, exactly. How many PLEs or pay-per-views have you seen where the show starts and the seats aren't filled because people are still coming in? We'll make it in. We'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. And like, don't get me wrong, I mentioned there's some things that we want to do. I think we might film some stuff outside the stadium,
Mhm.
but it'll be let's get close to the stadium in some shade and stand up right here. Because honestly, I was thinking about it earlier. I'm like, oh yeah, like we'll film this, we'll film that. If we do anything on our phone, like
Mhm.
it'll be so hot, your phone's gonna overheat.
Overheat, yeah.
You won't even be able to use it. You'll
And like
have to use a camera.
just based on like what we're going to be doing throughout the weekend, like we'll bring like batteries and stuff too, but overheat, it's going to be tough. I know there's been certain, like you've been to events where they sell even like portable
Yeah.
batteries that you can kind of rent for the night too, so maybe there's options there. But again, we've talked about this. There you go. Yep. I'm notorious for not doing well in the heat. It's gonna be hilarious because it's gonna be, people, no matter the weather, are dressing up. There's gonna be people like the Undertaker and Kane, and you guys are gonna have all wrestling gear on. I'm gonna be dressed like Bear Grylls, like
Yeah.
just ready for the desert. I'm gonna have the big hat on, some long cargo pants. Like
You're gonna
I
have the
got
sunblock still
the
on your
sunblock.
nose.
Yeah, I'm gonna get mosquito netting. I'm gonna be like prepared at all avenues for the heat.
It's gonna be great when we're in the arena and I've got us, it's the six of us all sitting together and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, Roman Reigns just came back, just took out Seth Rollins. I'm gonna, show Kevin, Ryan, then I'm gonna turn and it's gonna be you.
Yeah, and I have like cartoon X's over my
Yeah,
eyes or
yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Or
It's
leaned over
gonna
a garbage can. Just
Oh
looking at
God, let's
the
hope
character.
not. Yeah, let's hope not. But it's gonna be a great time. SummerSlam, man. I'm really hoping it shapes up to be a great PLE. Mania on paper, there was points like going towards Mania 41 where it was good, and there's points where it was bad, and then they recover, and then they lost us a little bit. Every storyline had its like good and bad parts about it. But I really think off the back of that, they have to kind of go all out for SummerSlam. I think we might get something kind of wild.
I think so too. And timeline wise, I probably should have looked at the schedule a little bit closer, but I know we have uh Backlash is obviously next Sunday. Then you run into PLEs or next Saturday, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You run into the Saturday night's main event in Tampa. You have Money in the Bank in June or July?
July,
July.
I think.
No, June. June. Because
June.
I may miss it.
Yes,
June.
yes,
June
yes. That's right.
5th
Yeah. Yep.
or something like that. June 5th or June 6th.
Used to be in July. I mix it up every time.
Yeah. So then you assume there's going to be something in July, unless that's Saturday night's main event.
There's got to be something
Saturday night's
else.
main event, I think, is in May. Is in May. Yeah, May 20th.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be something else. I don't know. Maybe they had a fucking new PLE or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Or honestly, as crazy as it sounds, maybe there isn't
Don't they
because
have like Clash in Paris coming or something?
that's in August.
Is it okay? I don't
August or
know the
September.
dates.
It's after SummerSlam, I'm pretty sure. Right?
It's definitely after. If it's after SummerSlam, it's obviously August. But
And
I don't know.
I think it's end of August or beginning of September. I love how we talk out loud as if like you just look it up.
Yep, I'm googling it right
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
now.
Only have, all the access in the
Yeah,
world.
all the technology in the world, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about it like we know it. And we have
Yeah.
no idea.
You're just sitting there guessing like, I think it's in either January, February, March, April, or it's in May, June, maybe it's in July, August, September. No, it's
June,
in
Money in the
October,
Bank,
November.
Evolution.
Evolution is a mystery.
Yeah, Clash in Paris is post SummerSlam. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, end of
So
August. Yeah.
that's going to be a problem because are you going to be able to afford the tickets for Evolution and SummerSlam? Are you
I'll
going to be
sell
able
my
to pull that off?
SummerSlam tickets if I have to. Okay, I'm going to
Okay.
Evolution.
Okay. I know Evolution is a mystery, but uh
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the expected schedule. Honestly, for the best. Oh, so is there a Saudi show around that time or no?
No, I think the only Saudi show is November this year. I think it's only one.
We could ever if we could ever be so lucky.
Yeah, Crown Jewel assumed November, which makes sense.
Yeah, and then
And
January,
then
obviously.
January. Oh,
Yeah.
God, don't remind me.
Um, but I bring that up to say I would prefer a bit more of a lengthy build for SummerSlam because it's 2 nights.
Hmm.
There should be plenty of room to go around.
Yes. Well, let me say there should be. Yes, absolutely. I want some names on that card, particularly, but it's just like Mania. Maximum 14 matches, 7-7.
Maximum.
Maximum. Same as Mania.
Maximum Dupree, yeah.
Yeah. Every time
Yes.
people are going to be crying, oh, this person didn't make it. This person didn't make it on a card. This person didn't make it on a card. Well, what do you want? Do you guys? You're going to then complain about 21 matches in one night too. So I don't know.
Completely agree. And on top of it, because it isn't Mania, it should be even more. Let's not force this as a 5-way, as a 6-way, because we want to give this person a Mania
Mm-hmm.
match. SummerSlam is huge. This is the biggest SummerSlam ever, technically.
Yep.
Treat it as such, but don't treat it as any and everybody has to get on.
Yeah.
Like
No
I don't
Rumble going into it. It's not Mania. So
that too
you have a
exactly.
clear like you can make a contender in a different manner.
You're not
Might have a
booked
Money in the
into
Bank involvement, but like
you're not booked
sure.
into oh we have two Rumble winners and this one they're both not going to main event and all this nonsense. Like you don't have to worry about any of that. So there should be plenty of time, plenty of names. There's definitely plenty of fucking titles to have on the line. But I'm very excited, interested where Cena will be at that point.
Yeah.
Is it Cena versus Cody again at that point? Is it Cena Punk or whatever? Do we have a shakeup before then where the rosters are mixed up? Does Cena Orton somehow get dragged to SummerSlam? Does that, become a trilogy or whatever? But more so, what interests me is with Rollins and Braun Breaker, and you start looking at that point. I mean, hell, it's not far fetched. We have Mania 40 all over again, where Seth Rollins is in a tag match night one, teaming with Braun Breaker against Roman Reigns and CM Punk or something. And then night two, he's facing Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. Like, there is nothing off the table with that faction and that story. That to me is like, if I've got to circle something heading into SummerSlam that has the most amount of interesting possibilities, that's it.
Yeah, I mean it definitely is. You gotta think. The most likely person to take that belt off Jey Uso, no matter when it happens, is probably Seth Rollins right now. There's names that I would like to be in the mix potentially, sure. There's a lot of rumors about like Drew McIntyre getting a movie role, so maybe that kind of takes him out of any potential mix. Maybe that's why he didn't springboard off the win against Priest into something a little bit bigger. But who else but Seth Rollins right now? Again, I think you're going to give Jay a win. You have to beat a Logan Paul, maybe as somebody else at another PLE. But we've been saying it for a while that Jay was going to, win the Rumble. I've been saying that for a while. Win the Rumble, win the title at Mania, not have a crazy run with the belt. Jay's not going into Mania 42 as World Heavyweight Champion. He might not even go into SummerSlam as World Heavyweight Champion. I would kind of be a little surprised if he didn't, honestly. There's like an online loud crowd again that is so against him, but Triple H said it. The arenas erupt every time that guy comes out. Even the people that might be online saying, "Oh, Jey Uso sucks, we hate him," when they're live there, they're getting loud and screaming and yeeting and everything. As long as that continues, the title reign might continue, but he's destined to lose it to Seth Rollins, no matter when it happens, in my mind.
Yeah, and honestly, like I wouldn't be shocked if Jay faced Rollins beforehand and won with help of Punk and Roman or
Roman,
something like that. Like that wouldn't surprise me. And then eventually Rollins gets a rematch and cheats or whatever and takes the
yeah,
title off of it. Like I mean, I mentioned the night one, night two. Hell, we could get Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker versus Jey Uso and Roman Reigns night one, and then night two, Seth Rollins versus Jey Uso for the world title. Like
I
that
mean,
is not far fetched.
it's not far fetched. They could also stretch out though, just Rollins and Braun versus Punk and Roman. That might happen at
Yeah.
Money in the Bank. That could happen at SummerSlam. Maybe singles matches. Maybe Braun versus Punk is somewhere in the mix. There's a lot of avenues they could really go. It's definitely the most intriguing story going into SummerSlam right now. There's definitely some other like potential stories going into SummerSlam. There's one particular that I want to bring up because I've been kind of saying this for a bit now too, and it's gonna fucking happen. Gunther's facing Goldberg at SummerSlam, man. That's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, the only way it doesn't is if it is a Saudi match. If it is,
Correct. Yes, that is the
he has
only
this.
other way. Yes, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if that's the route they went. And I know you're not the Goldberg guy. I'm not even really a Goldberg guy. I get it. I don't necessarily need Goldberg, but if he's gonna have one more match, Gunther's the guy to face. It's the only one that really makes sense. Have it be like Brock Goldberg. Gunther goes over, and hate him, love him. Goldberg on paper is a legend. Like having that win for Gunther, it's like a historic type win. I'll take it. But match might suck because Gunther's the best and Goldberg is not. So who knows how good it's going to be? But I'm not opposed to it.
Going from being the world heavyweight champion to feuding with Pat McAfee and then Bill Goldberg, I may have to start a lawsuit against Triple H if that happens.
See, man, I've been thinking about it. I'm not thinking about the whole Pat McAfee feud too much. Like to be honest, were we going to get Gunther versus Jay again? No, we all knew that
No.
before Mania. We weren't going to get that again. I didn't expect Gunther to come out on Monday and feud with the Undertaker either. Like I didn't expect anything crazy to come out of it. Like we kind of said already, I believe on the Raw review, I believe they're just kind of setting up Gunther for like a deeper path of destruction. Like he's going to kill McAfee. He's going to kill Goldberg. And then he's back on track to maybe win a championship another time. I think, he might be a guy that in a potential upcoming draft goes over to SmackDown and gets the WWE championship around his waist at some point. You talk Cena. One of the matches that really might happen in this run is Gunther versus Cena. If it's not Cody to win the belt back, I know Gunther's a heel, but he's up there on the people that could probably take that belt off Cena.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to really establish him, if Cena was a face, 1,000,000%.
1,000,000%. There'd be no other question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him being a heel is where it becomes interesting. Not that that really stops them
It could be a big
nowadays.
babyface turn for Gunther. Who knows? Don't think they
I,
should do that, but
yeah, no. Um, but it wouldn't surprise me. Gunther, I'm very interested on what would have happened if Ilya never got injured. Like I do
uh-huh.
think the plan all along was Jay to take the title off of
Yeah.
Gunther. I do believe that. But, you know, Ilya probably would have been the holdover feud during that instead of Jay facing Gunther 10 million times between matches.
Hmm.
I wonder if that alters our universe that we're in right now. Like, I wouldn't have been shocked if Jay beats Gunther and Jay's first opponent was Ilya, or
Hmm.
Ilya and Gunther go right back into another feud, and Ilya goes over this time now that he doesn't have the title. Like it, this is pure spitballing and pure speculation. They were obviously facing on a bunch of house shows. They weren't even feuding on TV, but it seemed that they were working towards a story between the two. Like it seemed that
Yeah.
was a genuine possibility. Ilya's going to be coming back soon.
Hmm.
Ilya versus Gunther at SummerSlam isn't far fetched.
No, it's not. I mean, I would love that. I mean, Ilya versus Gunther, they're gonna run on the main roster, a main pay-per-view, maybe a couple Raws. That's the type of match that's gonna happen a few times at some point, but that initial one on the main roster is gonna be big. Those NXT UK matches between the two of them are truly some of the best wrestling matches of all time, honestly. And they're gonna run that back eventually. I don't think Ilya was gonna take the title off of Gunther, but I definitely think it could have been the holdover feud. Ilya is a guy that they're going to book like they book Sami Zayn. That's the way I look at Ilya. I think Ilya is incredible, and I want the absolute best. I hope he wins the championship one day. I hope Ilya finds himself in a few years in the spot that Jey Uso was in. When Gunther wins an eventual Rumble or something and then wins the championship and holds it for another year, at that following Mania, Ilya is going to get the spot that Jey Uso just had. Like I can envision that actually happening at some point. I don't think it was going to happen this WrestleMania. I think the plan was always Jey. Again, that IC title run, I called it. That was them like kind of testing the waters with Jey a little bit, see how the crowd reacts. And people might hate on Jey again, but the crowd has been reacting the entire time. So they ran with him. The Ilya return going into SummerSlam, that would be great. It hit me right during this that I think something you could do with Ilya, he's such a good singles competitor. He's not really the guy that I would typically put in a tag team, but that Raw tag team division needs a little bit of help. Something about pairing Ilya up with Rusev, man, sparks my interest.
Yeah, it's interesting because you'd have to turn Ilya heel. Hell, even an Ilya
Heels,
Rusev,
cool with me.
yeah, yeah,
Cool with me.
or the opposite, Ilya versus Rusev feud. Like
Yeah. Yep.
that
Sure.
fucking that
Sign
fucking
me up.
rules too. Mentioning Ilya potentially, going into a tag team, it also reminds me Bronson Reed should be back at some point.
Yeah, dude,
Towards
there's so
SummerSlam.
many
So
people on these rosters,
yeah,
man. It's
so
crazy.
you definitely have plenty of options. Ilya is interesting because he's like the weird. His character is so unique that you would say on paper this won't work with like this would only work with very specific people for a tag team.
Hmm.
I think it's so unique that he could work with anybody and it'll end up like at first you'll be like this is a little weird, but it actually turns into something. Like for instance, when Nathan Frazier and Axiom got paired together, it was a little funky, or even better, I should say. Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin being paired up,
Hmm.
we're like,
Wolf
this
dogs.
this tag team makes no sense. Like I
Yeah.
like it was a very awkward, like felt like two pure singles wrestlers. It wasn't like very similar to when Drew McIntyre and Ziggler were a tag team. You're like, these are two singles guys. These
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah.
these aren't a
Yeah.
tag
Yeah.
team. Even though they hold the tag titles, like this isn't a tag team. Braun and Corbin so quickly, like, oh, this is a tag team.
Hmm.
Ilya is one where I think you could pair him with literally anybody. It could be
Yeah.
obscure as it could be fucking Tozawa.
Yeah.
And in like 3 weeks' time, it would be like put the fucking tag titles on them.
Ilya is like Cesaro or Sheamus, like the bar. Like that's like the tag team of just you can put two of these guys together and they're gonna make magic. Ilya, I strikes me as such a singles guy. Like I almost don't know if I was in creative, I don't know if I would put him in a tag team. But something
Agreed.
about him with Rusev like sparks my interest. But he could make it work with anybody. Truly, he's that type of guy. And Sheamus, there you go. There's just another name like Ilya and Sheamus that can make that work. That's another guy that hasn't been on TV that I don't know if he's going to be super involved for the rest of his career. He's in that boat of kind of putting talent over where and when he can. But there's a lot of names I want on that SummerSlam card. Ludwig Kaiser better get his moment on this SummerSlam card. I'm not saying he needs to win the WWE Championship, but and maybe even a mid card title. I want a moment for Ludwig Kaiser. I don't even know if I want it to be just a big win. I want something to happen for Ludwig.
Absolutely. That is like he was on our list of like this guy needs to fucking be on Mania and he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
He 1,000,000% is on the list for this guy needs to be on SummerSlam, like no questions asked. It does kind of bring us into our main topic for today. Some things on Twitter that I'll get to in a second. I want to preface this by saying you mentioned Sheamus,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned Ludwig. I start thinking of like Pete Dunne,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Bate. WWE, it's pretty well known, like whether you think it's good or not, whether you agree with it or not, there's so much talent that some of the talent kind of goes in waves of stretches of them being used a ton, then not really used, then used a
Mm-hmm.
ton, then not really used. Unless you're in like that group of this person's on every week no matter what, which we all know those people, the Seth Rollinses of the world. If Punk is there, he's on. You know that we know that Cody Rhodes, we know those names. And they don't have to be megastars like Finn Balor every week. He's not one of
Yep.
the people that are in like the waves. But there's a large group of people that are in the waves. Great example. You look at the SmackDown Tag Division. Los Garza and Pretty Deadly previously were in a wave where they weren't doing much. And then they hit the wave where they were on every fucking week. And now Los Garzas are still doing stuff. Pretty Deadly's kind of hitting back to that wave of not being used as much. Again, not saying this is the correct way to do things, not saying any of that. Not saying that they need to make the roster smaller by any means. Not saying anything of those sorts. What I'm saying is WWE has always done this. Always.
Not only WWE,
Of course.
every
Yeah.
wrestling company
Of
does
course.
this.
Yes. Every wrestling company does this. It is more notable with WWE because they have been the longest running weekly episodic
Mm-hmm.
wrestling company ever. It brings us to something on social media that, of course, has gotten the boys riled up. Stretch the arms, baby. I'm not even mad at Dakota,
No,
I should say.
no, I don't care.
Dakota Kai, I am sure her psychotic fans were blowing up her mentions, asking if she was injured, worrying about him because
Yes.
one of the craziest fan bases. Good for her. Very loyal following. Couldn't be me. They were wondering why she isn't on television. And she came out and posted, no, I'm not injured. I miss wrestling. I want to wrestle. Completely fair. I would, you know, it's her love. Look, I love collecting a check to not work, but that is a completely different story. We know there's people like
I'm
that in the
taking the
world.
JTG route.
I was just about to say, yeah, there
Yeah.
are people like that. I'm sure if it was something that I loved, 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 I wouldn't want to sit on the, if it
Yeah.
was like, oh, I haven't been on the podcast in 3 weeks, I'd be like, fuck, I want to fucking get on the pod. I want to talk wrestling. Teach their own. Completely fair of her to say that. But of course, good old Uncle Dave Meltzer pops in and says, "Oh, someone high up said they don't bench people, blah blah blah, whatever." And it is once again caused quite the argument on Twitter, on social media, and it is just the most unnecessary fucking argument ever because it is an argument of like there's truth on both sides, there's correctness on both sides, there's also wrongness on both sides, where it's like why? Like, is this just engagement farming? If it is, cool, respect it, get your Elon check, whatever. If it's not, fuck off.
When was Dakota Kai last on Raw? Wasn't it only a few weeks ago? Wasn't she on Raw
Yeah,
not too long ago to some degree? Didn't she have a match with like a Lyra or an Ivy Nile or
she was
somebody?
in
Yeah.
she was in the Intercontinental title tournament.
Tournament. And that was that was a couple months ago,
No, no, no,
maybe.
no, no.
Oh,
The
yeah,
more
that's right.
recent
Yes,
one.
yeah, the more recent one. Yes, exactly. Okay, yeah.
That
Like,
I think Raquel ended up winning.
yeah, I believe so. There's names all over, like you
And she
mentioned.
was in the women's tag tournament as well, on top of that.
Exactly. There's names you mentioned all over that are, there's We call them mid-card titles. There's championships, there's mid-card titles, tag titles. Like, there's kind of divisions, and there's people, like you said, the Rollins of the world, the Finn Balor's, the people that are holding the belts are typically on every week. And they have a group of challengers that are probably in the mix, potentially on every week. And then there's kind of side characters that are always in the mix. It's been like this forever. If Dakota Kai was on last week, people would have been asking, where's Ivy Nile? Somebody that she would have taken that spot from. And it's nothing against Dakota Kai even. It's just she wasn't used this week or these last few weeks or these last few months. And I get it. Maybe it does suck for her fans. There's people that I would like to see a little bit more of too. But there's plans in motion again. You can't, they're not just going to even, we'll take Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. They're not just going to shoehorn them into the TLC on Friday with the three other teams because it makes no sense. Oh, compete people online want to see Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. They should put them in the TLC. Not that anybody said that, but they would. The fans are outrageous. But they just would never do that because it doesn't make sense. There wasn't a need for Dakota Kai at this point in time. There wasn't a need for, I don't know, whoever else wasn't on the card. It's no big deal, you know? And there's a lot of biasness, everything I'm seeing online is really only being said because it's coming from the fan base of AEW fans, which you're into what you're into. That's fine. But all these companies do this. Phoenix, Penta, Ricky Saints, all were benched and they come over. But it seems that even from a guy like Dave, where this is where it gets crazy to me, where it's like one of the biggest journalists in wrestling, he has one of the heavier opinions in the community.
Use that loosely.
Yeah, loosely. Yes, loosely. He has one of the, more seen opinions in wrestling, and it's so biased. It's actually unbelievable. He has such a knowledge of pro wrestling. He should know this more than anybody. Then it's just the way it goes. Maybe it is engagement farming. Sure. It might be to a point. I'm sure he does that from time to time. But it's just crazy to even have to like talk about it. It's like ridiculous in my opinion. Anybody out there that's crying about it, get over it. I don't know what to tell you.
And here's my thing too. I feel bad because like Dakota obviously didn't mean to start all of this, and like it could have been anybody that said this. This is not a personal attack on her by
Other
any
people
means.
that
Like,
I maybe this wasn't real, but I think I saw Natalia commented on it and said like "Me Too" or something like that. I miss wrestling as well. Like she's not the only one that isn't being
yeah,
used or something.
yeah, no, that probably excited you to.
Oh yeah, I was really happy actually. That's why I remembered it. So I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
that's really
yeah,
important to me.
exactly.
You know.
But there is benching in wrestling. Like this is like my thing. I don't agree with what Nick Khan said. Like I think that was kind of not out, like dumb to say, but
I
like
think it was a dig. I think it was a dig to kind of
yeah,
AEW
yeah,
is
but it
what he
was like
said.
it was an unnecessary one because look, every situation is different. If you think in the world of WWE, someone hasn't been sent home for something, all right, maybe not more recent with Triple H's being in charge, whatever, but
Mhm.
it has definitely happened where people get punished. That happens in all aspects of work, not just
Yeah.
wrestling. Benching is a thing. This is not like, to me, benching is you did something wrong. You're taking a back seat. To me, this is, could you argue this qualifies as benching? I guess you're just going into the argument of semantics.
Mhm.
To me, this is just the wave of wrestling and how it goes. And all right, here's some new fresh faces, mixing in new stories, whatever. Like now all these people have returned or come back from injury or just signed, and there's all of these changes, whatnot. Like to me, this is just how it goes, whether it's good or not. Like that's just how it is. It's not she said something publicly and got sent home, or they completely scrapped an idea because she was speaking out or did something off script, whatever. Like that is all right. If you want to argue the semantics, they're both technically benching, whatever. At that point, like you sound like a child being like, well, technically, like, come on, there's
You
a
are, but
fucking
what am
difference.
I?
There's a
Yeah,
fucking difference.
it is all semantics. There's benching and everything. I think benching in baseball is different than the way Nick Khan had used the term and the way I would describe it. I'm benching Rafael Devers because he strikes out a lot this season. He's doing bad. Dakota Kai is not necessarily doing bad, but just isn't in the mix, isn't needed in this particular storyline. And listen, we've kind of thrown a little bit of shade at Dakota Kai, not for her talent or her lack of ability or anything, because I honestly think she's fine in that regards. I just think
It's
she
just
has
it's
a
just her
crazy,
fucking stretching her arms.
yeah, it really is that. She's just one of those people that has like such a crazy fan base for whatever reason that's a little off-putting almost. And it's like, all right, you guys got to like honestly relax a little bit. Like she wasn't on TV this week; it's not a big deal. But it's nothing against Dakota Kai. The benching, like the way Nick Khan said it to me, I don't know if I'm not gonna say it was like a crazy outright dig, but it's a little bit of a dig. The other company, AEW, and all the fans of WWE or AEW, whatever you prefer, there's so many people that are so quick to strike against the other company when they do something that they don't like against the opposition, whatever, and it's very hypocritical on both sides. There has been many people that have been benched in AEW. There has been people that are perfectly healthy, ready to wrestle, not being used because there's differences behind the scenes, and like you said, people can be benched for or sent home for who knows what, but there's talent being wasted. Has WWE done that at a point? I'm positive they have. Off the top of my head, I don't even know who, but
Ali,
the
like,
perfect. Yeah, Ali,
yeah.
yes, 100%. Yeah, perfect. And those are things that have clearly changed in the Vince regime. If people don't realize that by now, like you're not watching the show, you're pretending you watch the show and you're just commenting on it. The benching, like Nick Khan said, that's what he meant. They're not doing that. They're not having this full blown talent that is ready to go active, and they're just going to not use them over personal distaste, differences, whatever. They're not benching people like that. Yeah, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne might be benched right now because, again, maybe they just don't fall into the story mix. But also, Tyler Bate just came back. They'll fall in line again eventually. Pretty Deadly, they weren't in the TLC. They're probably next in line for a title shot at the Street Profits when you think about it. Dakota Kai, it's unfortunate, in my opinion. I'd rather her be in the Becky Lynch spot than Becky Lynch right now. But, maybe she's the one to go after it after the fact. Who knows? You just got to wait. Just watch the product. There's somebody else to like. There's somebody else to cheer for. Again, I said it at the beginning of this conversation. If Dakota Kai was on TV, they'd be complaining that Liv wasn't on TV or so-and-so wasn't on TV. Like, there's just always going to be somebody.
I kind of think of it, it's a maybe a weird analogy, not perfect, but I kind of think of it in football terms where you have so many different formation packages
Mm-hmm.
and you have certain, like, your quarterback is most likely not leaving the field. Your quarterback is your champion. Like, going to every week, every play, they're on some way, some shape, some form. Then you have these packages where it's like, oh, we're running with two running backs here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we're shifting to one running back. Okay, now we're doing a package. We're on defense. We're running a nickel. We need an extra corner. Okay, now we're sending a blitz and we're going a little, we're gonna have five up front. We're gonna send six. Oh, we're only gonna have one high safety. Like, there's all these different pieces that get moved around where, all right, you're not on the field for this play because this isn't your package, but in a few more plays, you're going to come back into the mix. You're right, right into the groove of things. It's a funky analogy, but there's certain people that aren't going to leave the field. Whether it's right or wrong, that's how it goes. Then there's some people who come in for a few plays, go out for a few plays. They don't play every down. That's how wrestling is. Not everyone is on every week. How do you become that person? Is there, politics? Sure, like I'm sure there's many aspects to it. But at the end of the day, if just like you said, if so and so is on, that means Joe Schmo now isn't on and is not going to be on for a month or
Mm-hmm.
two and then is back in the mix. Like, as shitty as it sounds, like that's just kind of how it goes.
It's the hypocrisy within wrestling fans is insane. It really is, and not even just wrestling fans. Meltzer, it's actually crazy. It's a lot of these like wrestling personalities, we'll call them, have biases, and we probably do too. It's fine. It's not even that big of a deal. You're allowed to have biases. You're allowed to kind of prefer one thing over another and defend it because you like it more. But there is a point where like you're just being foolish, like you're actually just being foolish and you're just ignoring facts to kind of help your side, but you're making your side of things worse. I don't know.
Well, it's really just like you're starting an argument that doesn't need to be started. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
100%.
and it
Yeah.
goes back to like the being childish of like, well, they said this first. It's like, who gives a fuck? Fucking
Yeah,
ignore them.
yeah.
Who
Well,
cares?
and it's just the fans are so hypocritical typically in ways too, where like, okay, again, if Dakota Kai was on this week, great, we cheer for Dakota. But then Ivy Nile wasn't on. And then we're gonna go, oh, where's Ivy Nile? But then Ivy Nile does get on and she does the best sell that Stephanie Vaquer move has ever had. And people are online shitting on it anyways. Like there's just always gonna be something that they find to complain about against anybody and everybody. I don't know. It just is what it is. It's crazy to me that like it's even a conversation that is being had online and it gets to a point where we're having it in our podcast because it's so obvious. It's just clear as day as to why people aren't being used at this moment in time. And it's also clear as day when like a talent doesn't have it and that's why they're not being used. And, not to call anybody out, but somebody they brought up at a point that was just too green at that point in time, Omos was too green when they called him up. Tail end of that Vince regime too. It was not working out. The Styles pairing didn't really work out. Omos, goes away for a little bit, finds himself in Noah, comes back, hasn't been on TV. People are crying, crying, crying. They're working on him though. He's still employed. Like he'll be around eventually. You got to give it time. And Omos has a lot of potential. I do think he actually does, but it was pretty evident he didn't quite have it in those early stages. There's other wrestlers all around right now because that NXT 2.0 era called wrestlers up real early. Braun Breaker was super green when he really started in NXT 2.0 and look at him now. These people need time to develop.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, like this is nothing new. This
Mm-hmm.
is not something that's unseen. And on top of it, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, it's gonna keep happening. Like this isn't like, oh, well, you know, we'll look at it this way. Do you want less people to have jobs and they run with a smaller roster where everyone gets on TV no matter what, but it's way less people, so there's way less spots and there's way less jobs and people are making less money, whatever. Like, is that what you want? I'm not saying I want people to just sit and do nothing because obviously they love to wrestle. But on top of it, we're also in an unprecedented time where a lot of these talents are doing some indie stuff. Yeah, they're not doing the indies
Yeah.
every week, but there's some unused people like you bring up.
Natalia just did Bloodsport.
Exactly. Omos, I know they called him back from Japan and people are like, "Oh my God, why are they calling him back to not use him?" Well, he is under contract and they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Like if they don't want him over there, they can bring
It
him
was
back, whatever.
WrestleMania build. They're not just going to springboard him into something.
Yeah. Anything. I think of it in soccer. You can loan someone somewhere. If you don't like the
Mm-hmm.
way that they're developing on them, you think it's not right, you can just call it back and like
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Create a new agreement. It is not something that's going to change and it'll always come up. It's going to come up even more with SummerSlam because there's going to be names that are left off for sure. And look, I am not saying every person that's on like earned their way and deserves their spot, but a lot of times you get it. And look, as shitty as it sounds, sometimes it's just how the world works. Like,
Yeah.
I would prefer Logan Paul is not on WrestleMania or Logan Paul isn't in the world title feud. I get it though. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's shitty, but he's a huge name. He does draw eyeballs. He is pretty good. Like,
Yeah. Like there's
it's just how it is. Does it suck? Yeah, but does anything change? No. Is this the first time it's happened? No. Is it the last time it'll happen? Also, no.
yeah.
Chill.
Well, chill is the word because I think there's a way that people go about it that is just like asinine to a point where, listen, if you were to take all of our podcast reviews over the last couple months and clip out every part of us talking about how Ludwig should have had a match at WrestleMania, you'd probably have a 2-minute clip of us just bitching about Ludwig not
We'd
being on
sound exactly like
WrestleMania.
the people we're ripping about.
Exactly. But if you watch it in like the full grand scheme of things, we are here discussing why we think he should be, why it's kind of crazy that he wasn't, but how we also understand why he wasn't and that there's other things going on. You know, there's a way to go about it where we're not sitting here being like, oh my God, this fucking company, Triple H, fire the guy. He didn't put this guy out. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. Like, it's one guy that has a lot of talent, but they're still working with him. He's still being used. Dakota Kai is still being used. They're all going to find their place. It does lead me to ask. I think this is a good one. we're Cody crybabies, right? We're Cody fans. Gunther goat account. SummerSlam, we're gonna be there. We're gonna predict this one a couple months ahead of time, right? Not a match, but who's the crybaby for SummerSlam that gets kept off? Who are all the fans crying about that gets
Ooh,
kept off the card for SummerSlam? There's always one. Who's it gonna be?
that's interesting, especially with it being a two-night event. I could see, I could see, as weird as this sounds, like I could see Lyra ending up, and
Yeah,
this is, look, I don't want this to happen. I just talked about how I'm rocking with Lyra. I like Lyra
yeah,
a
yep,
lot.
yeah.
I could see her feud with Becky Lynch wrapping up kind of beforehand. Becky takes the title off of her, and Becky's facing like Bailey at SummerSlam, and Lyra
Mm,
doesn't have a match. Like
yeah.
I could see that happening.
I was thinking like Naomi maybe gets kept off. I don't know. I'm thinking of feuds that are like being rehashed post WrestleMania that probably wrap up before SummerSlam. And who's the loser of that feud? It looks like Jade is probably going to be the one to come out on top of the end of this Jade Naomi feud. If that ends at Money in the Bank, does Naomi get squeezed into that SummerSlam card? I don't know. There's definitely a couple names. I do think Lyra's a good one for the same reason. Lyra might lose that IC belt at Money in the Bank, let's say. Maybe the rematch happens on a Raw and then Becky faces Bailey. I think that's pretty standard. Man,
I
there's
could
always
see, like, I'm
somebody.
also thinking like tag team division. I could see like the Street Profits defending on the SmackDown before Mania. And again, this isn't me like
Mhm.
saying I hope this happens. I would love the Street Profits to be on Mania.
They're
Hell,
great.
the fucking
They just had
TLC match
yeah, it was insane.
would have been the match of the weekend at Mania. I could see them kind of getting screwed whether they're champs or not and having a big match the night before. And it's
Hmm.
like that SmackDown's the real killer. Like
Yeah.
it kind of makes me think where I don't know, say like a Ray Phoenix, a Carmelo Hayes, an Aleister Black or whatever. They're in a story,
Hmm.
but it's one that they don't put on the card because they put it on this on the SmackDown before. Like
Yeah.
I could see one of those names falling into and there's a
Hmm.
large outcry. And don't get me wrong, like odds are it'll be someone that I like and I agree with you, but also you can see both sides. You can disagree with the decision. Ludwig,
Hmm.
case in point, completely disagree with the decision. I can see it though, and now that Mania's played out, like, all right, I can see why you didn't put him into that match or shoehorn him into this story or have him get involved in this story. Like, I could see it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all it is just being able to understand the process. And we don't work for WWE, but it's not that hard to just understand the creative process behind things a little bit. And that, there's storylines being told and they play out. Aleister Black's the name you just mentioned. I would strap world championship on him right now if it was up to me. I would love for that. He might not be on the SummerSlam card. I know they got 4 or 5 months, whatever it is, till SummerSlam. You don't know if Al, and I would love Aleister Black on the card, but if he's on the card, maybe it's the Rusev match that doesn't make it then. And there's so much talent now. Bronson Reed, like you said, coming back, Ilya coming back. People want Dakota Kai. Like somebody somewhere isn't making it. These, especially two-night events, though, now, like every two-night event is destined to have at least one fatal four-way, five-way, six-way match of some sorts.
Look, it's funny because it does kind of come to no knock on the wrestler, but some wrestlers have this like cult-like following on social media. I mean,
Mm,
you mentioned we're Cody crybabies.
yep.
I fall into a cult-like following of Cody. I was pissed when I thought he was gonna fucking give up his spot for The Rock. Hindsight 2020, thank fucking God, we were right.
Yeah.
It's funny though, where it's like the picking and choosing, because it's like when it happens to certain people that some people don't give a fuck about, they're like, oh, whatever, who cares? But then it happens to someone they care about. I immediately think of, I saw some people mention this, not enough. There should have been more of an outcry for Solo not having a Mania match or a prominent Mania role.
Mm,
Like, talk about, like, we were petitioning for Ludwig, we should have petitioned even more for Solo because
Solo,
we
yeah.
thought Solo
You
was
know,
going to have
eh,
a fucking prominent story. And like, look, I see the vision, I see
mhm,
the story, but man, talk about someone who like he hasn't even
deserved it.
had a fucking Mania match yet.
Yeah, he hasn't. Solo is a great name to bring up. He falls into a similar boat of Damian Priest right now to me, where those are two guys that people are starting to see the light. We have never swayed. Solo's been great. Damian's been great. They've deserved everything they've had come their way and more, especially in Solo's case, because at least Priest has had his big moments. They will get their moments, but I seen a photo the other day of the three or four really tough dragons, and it's Drew and whoever Cena and Priest is in there, and then it's the silly dragon and it's Jey Uso. 6 months ago, Jey Uso wasn't in that photo, and Priest was the silly looking dragon or
Yeah.
whatever. Like the opinions are changing because you see what these guys can do, and C2 wins again. We're always right. We were right from the beginning on all of these. We honestly were. Like, it's just clear as day to not only us, there's just as many smart, like knowledgeable wrestling fans as there are not smart wrestling fans. That type of fan is what overtakes the internet. The people that like know don't need to go type about it. The people that think they know want to go tell people. So that community is a little bit louder, but it's just crazy to me, man. Who's next? In a year, people are going to be loving Jey Uso, singing his praises, but then is Ilya going to be the guy that gets pushed too hard and they're hating on? It's going to be somebody.
Great example.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Theory. These people are trying to rewrite history. Don't get me wrong. There was a good following of Theory Hive. Like
Yes.
there was me being one of them.
Clusters.
I know
Yeah.
there was a group of people who I be popping bottles. We were all
Yeah.
about Theory from day one. But there is a loud section of fans that are pretending like they didn't fucking shit on him for every week he was on television. And was it great? No. But you got to be honest with yourself. You can't act like you weren't fucking saying that shit because you were. We know it. And fucking the proof is out there. Your fucking history, your tweets, your posts, whatever. It can be found. Like that is a prime example of people pretending like they didn't shit on him being on every week. And now people are like, oh my God, we're even closer to the face turn and Waller's, pushing his singles. It's like, where was this fucking energy a few
Yeah.
months ago?
A
You
few
guys
months
fucking
ago.
shitting on this guy.
Yeah. And, Theory is the best example of way back when it was so obvious that guy is loaded with talent in the ring, on the mic, presentation. Austin Theory is the total package. It was the regime behind him that was pushing it too hard, too fast, too soon, not the right timing, doing it in weird ways, forcing the money in the bank, things like that. It was so clear that was the case. This is kind of Vince's little puppet right now. Great choice, but we're kind of skyrocketing it a little too hard right now when there's other things that can be going on. But the guy's pure talent. And people were shitting on the guy, Austin Theory, not smart enough to realize, like, man, this guy's great, but they're not going about it the right way. That's the difference.
For sure. And we've talked about that a few times. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, this fucking Becky story. Like some people say she had a hand in it. Some people say she didn't. I don't know. I know at the end of the day,
No
like
idea.
there's only we weren't in the fucking we weren't in
Creative
those
room, yeah.
chats. We weren't in
Yep.
those fucking calls. I don't know. As far as I know, they said, "Hey, this is what we're doing," and it's what they did. And I'm not gonna shit on her for it. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she pulled it. That doesn't work for me, brother. One day we'll probably find out, but why fucking speculate, whatever. To circle back to SummerSlam, because I still have that excitement of us buying our tickets and the show being so close but yet so far. A few names that we've mentioned where it's like, where will they be by SummerSlam? You mentioned potential stories. Do we get Solo versus Jacob as, was that the plan where it was one of those matches where it seemed so obvious that was going to be a WrestleMania match? And they said, what's the rush? Why rush this? Do we get him versus, Jacob Solo at SummerSlam? And on top of it, is Jacob even still the United States champion at that point?
So I think they're going the reverse route of what people thought, where people thought, Jacob Fatu is going to beat Solo one day. I hate you, Solo. I think Solo is going to take the title off Fatu. Fatu might win the war. Solo wins that battle perhaps, but I can see that kind of being the payment to Solo for what he's done in these last few years is giving him the championship win over Fatu because Fatu, Aleister Black, put a title on him right now. Fatu's gold. Solo is great, and that was his spot until Fatu came in and really hijacked it. And all the credit in the world to Fatu. But Solo still deserves, as we say, his flowers. And that might be it. I think he might be the one that wins that U.S. title off of Fatu.
Not to go ultra fantasy booking, but a piece of me kind of hopes we have maybe a multi-person match closer to Money in the Bank or maybe on a SmackDown, whatever. Because honestly, the mid card title changes happening on the weekly shows are they make the weekly shows more interesting. Maybe it's a multi-person match and Solo pins someone else for
Yeah.
the title in it, and Fatu loses without getting pinned. Whatever. My thing with it all, I am very excited. I'm even more interested in the story now than I was a few weeks ago because of the routes and having the title in the mix. There is a piece of me where it falls very similar into where the Dom Finn story is creeping towards. I I love this person getting a championship. Dom with the IC,
Mm.
Jacob with the US title. The story is about a hair away from being good enough that it doesn't need a title. It doesn't need a title in the mix. That there are people that this is going to get the TV time anyway, no matter what. I'm creeping towards, man, I would love that US title mix of
Ludwig.
Andrade, Phoenix.
Yeah.
If Ludwig moves over to SmackDown, like
Yeah.
he's
Anybody.
teased, Alistair, Carmelo, like there's so many good names that I'm like Fatu, Solo, Dom, Finn. These are very interesting stories. They're so close for me to not needing the titles involved that the title kind of needs to be freed up. And this isn't like a knock on the title. It is kind of a testament to the story because it is similar to all of CM Punk's stories. Like
Mm-hmm.
they haven't been about championships. A
Mm-hmm.
great story that has no title involved means it's a really fucking good story and you're doing a great job. So a piece of me is kind of like, I know I mentioned not wanting everyone on the card, whatever. I would rather we get Solo versus Jacob one on one. The title's already taken off of them. And come SummerSlam, you get your six-man ladder match. Phoenix, Alistair, Carmelo, The Miz, Fraxium. I don't know.
Anybody.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anybody. Andrade,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And that's the mid-card title match. Like there's to me, we're at a point where they're telling really good stories and they're involving the championships, but the titles are almost secondary.
I definitely get what you're saying. I do feel like the U.S. title is a useful tool potentially in this Solo Fatu story if they go about it a certain way, though. I do very much see a world where Solo does win the U.S. title off of Fatu, but in a multi-man match, pins somebody else, climbs the ladder, grabs the belt, whatever, and kind of plays it off like I kept it in the family. That's the idea. I was happy for you when you won it and brought it to the family. Like now I won it and kept it here. You weren't getting up and grabbing that belt, whatever he says. And that pisses Fatu off, and that prolongs the feud a little bit, which sometimes these feuds, the long-term storytelling is great. Uh, Priest and Finn went on too long. Does Dom and Finn go on too long? I'm not really feeling stale on that at any point yet because it's been good. But if that rides post SummerSlam, I mean, maybe Fatu Solo. If Solo wins the belt at SummerSlam, that feud's running until Survivor Series, probably. So at what point is it maybe going on too long? It is just tough because Fatu is going to be like probably the clear victor in that war, but Solo deserves his flowers, man. He really does.
Yeah, I think we're also closer now with the Balor Dom feud very clearly
Mm-hmm.
than the Fatu Solo feud.
Yeah.
They could have, and I'm glad they didn't, they could have accelerated what they had going. And we mentioned with the story of Fatu and Solo, we were like, if they're setting up a match, like we were like a month away. We're like, it has to happen now. If not, it can't happen because at that
Yeah.
point you've rushed it. And a lot of Mania was already rushed. They didn't. Obviously, that was their plan not to. But now you have to hope they don't take too long with it
Hmm.
because they did the right thing in my opinion. They didn't rush it. Dom Finn, we didn't get the ultimate climax or whatever. Perfectly fine. But let's not drag it too far. Like I could see, I'm not saying this could happen, but it's not far fetched the Dom Finn feud goes until fucking Survivor Series or yeah, Survivor Series is in San Diego. Like Dom's hometown. Like I could see it fucking stretching all the way to there. I
Yeah.
don't want it
Yeah.
to, but that's not far fetched. So that's also where it goes into the play of like keep the titles in the mix for a little bit longer,
Yeah.
but not too long because especially if these stories start to drag, case in point, Rhea and Liv
Too long.
really just it ran too long and it really just made the title just not feel as, relevant
No,
because
that's it.
you had it stuck in this feud.
Yeah, I can't like necessarily say I don't want this feud to go this far because it could be great. It's like tough to predict that it would even
Of course.
it would be bad. It's happened, so you have assumptions that it can go that route. But Liv and Ray is a great example where the title like was just kind of meaningless at that point. It didn't really hold a lot of value because it went on too long. Finn and Dom, there'll be an ultimate payoff coming sometime soon. The official split of the Judgment Day to some degree. Finn goes on to new things. There's also, I think, the bigger picture too is like when you hold the title on this feud for so long, which Dom is a fantastic IC champ. But if you're going to hold that title onto him and it's kind of just balancing between him and Finn until Survivor Series, 6 months away, man, Ludwig, Penta, the Phoenixes, the Andrades, the Carmelos, all those guys that we've been naming aren't going to get that moment that they deserve too. Could they invent another belt? I'm sure they could. Should they? Not really. They got enough belts really floating around. I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's hard because they added all these women mid card titles, so they got to showcase those now. Maybe you can squeeze one more men's belt in somehow. I hate the idea of like a cross brand belt though. Raw is a little bit of a longer show. Well, SmackDown's longer right now. Actually, I lied. But maybe you could just to give
They're the
guys a
same
little bit.
length, really,
Yeah, they kind of are. Yes,
because
it's
there's
commercials, things
different
like that.
commercial
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
Yeah,
But like maybe you could, but like I don't like the idea of just creating belts just to make a guy get a belt. You have established championships that hold value. If you mix them up a little bit, you give some of these guys credibility. I think you hold it on Dom too long, you maybe miss out on the Penta moment.
you also have to think too. At some point, SmackDown's going back to 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's not saying 3 hours. Before we get out of here, we're talking Dom, we're talking Solo, or sorry, we're talking Jacob. Brings me to our final question. Since we focused on them too, they both won the title the same weekend. Who do you think holds the title longer? And as crazy as it sounds, I know when you first hear that, you're like, oh, Jacob, because Jacob hasn't been pinned, blah, blah, blah. They're both in such unique stories that,
Yeah.
like, if you told me either of them dropped the title within a month, I wouldn't be shocked because there's plenty of routes for them to drop the title.
Yeah, I do think Fatu's the answer. Dom has lackeys, quote unquote, though, that could be helping him win that championship every week. So I guess either way it could go, but Fatu seems more likely to hold the belt a little bit longer. I think Dom won't be super transitional, but I said this months before Mania when I was booking Dom winning the belt over Finn and that prolonging this feud. That's another kind of rivalry match at WrestleMania that we pretty much predicted. I've said it that the bigger moment for Penta is not Penta winning at WrestleMania. It's Penta beating Dom one-on-one for the IC title. Who knows when? Fuck it. Have it at Worlds Collide for all I care. Do it with AAA. I don't care. Do it
It could be
whenever.
the
But
fucking main event.
that could be the main event. And I understand there's not AAA talent in there, but
Yeah.
they're all involved, sure.
Yeah.
But that's a bigger moment, for a guy like Penta is winning the belt in that singles match. Fatu is a bigger moment for Solo. Maybe not necessarily, but that's also like the heel babyface side of things. The babyface is always going to get the bigger moment. They all deserve their flowers. So that's the problem. There's so much talent, and there's always going to be. They're not necessarily hoarding talent. WWE has done that in the past. A lot of these companies have. If you look at the COVID cuts, that was a lot because they were hoarding talent prior to that, and they had to have cuts. So a lot of them went. But there's going to be talent. I love Rusev. I love Black. I want Ilya to return. I want Bronson Reed. Four incredible names that I would love to put a championship on. I don't know if all four of them are world champions by the time they retire.
Yeah, it's a great point. On Jacob, they've kind of set up the multi-person match already too with
Mm,
Jacob, LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, and potentially Solo.
yeah.
Like,
Maybe Drew gets
man,
written off too, some
Drew
way.
could get written off. Priest, I know, obviously attacked Drew, but hell, that could be a fucking, for all we know, that could turn into a five-way and Solo pin someone else or whatever. Like, there really are a lot of options.
Mm,
It does have me, dude. Like, it is mania level excitement for SummerSlam this year. I went to SummerSlam last year
yeah.
and I was very excited for it. We expected the Roman return. We got the Roman return. I know people were kind of pooping on Cody Solo being the main event, but that moment of Roman's return and
It's worth it.
that was obviously great. The show all around was solid. It is like, man, it feels like we have another WrestleMania, and whatever
Hmm.
wrongs they created from this past Mania, boy, do they have a chance to make them all oh so right with
Yep.
SummerSlam, man.
People are too quick to shit on it because of maybe bad storylines, bad matches, whatever we may have gotten. Wrestling's great. WWE is great. I got nothing but faith. As you said, they got a bunch of options, but not only do they have a bunch of options, so do the C2 Wrestling fans. So many options of C2 Wrestling videos to go back and watch. There's just so many of them. You got to go watch them all. Not only the previous ones, but what's to come. Backlash coming soon. You got to hang out with the boys. We'll be live. Backlash. I don't know too much about after that. You'll be away, but
It'll
C2 ain't going
it'll
nowhere.
be interesting. I'll have to see what the schedule's like. It's not impossible that old CTD wakes up at 3 in the morning for a Money in the Bank stream while he's in a hotel in Paris. Don't bank on it. Don't the odds like yes is plus money, no is minus money right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a bet on C2 Sportsbook. It's very, very possible, you might get a juicy line there. You have
I
to tune
mean,
in to find out.
you got to tune in and find out. C2 Wrestling, baby.
Catch you guys next time.